Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It's Saturday morning. It's the day before the World Cup final between Australia and Samoa, and I'm just heading to work, running a little bit later today than normal. So what I've decided to do is to do a walk and talk as I head to work and go through yet another wonderful book summary to add to the collection of over 1,435, I think, 36 that I've done to date. Never ceases to give me pleasure to do this activity, and I've been doing it for almost 2.5 years now, since the beginning of COVID, and I just love doing it. Don't know, this may be one of my callings. I know I'm not absolutely fantastic at it, but I am doing my best, and one thing for sure and for certain is that I am gaining every step of the way, and I hope you too can gain some benefit from it as well, because we all know that leaders are readers, and that reading is one of those activities that we all can do to accumulate the wisdom of time in a form called OPE, other people's experiences. Now, you can go through life trying to achieve everything on your own, learn everything, but you just run out of time. We can only live one lifetime at a time, and we can only experience one thing at a time. So the slithers of reality that we accumulate through life, may be perfect, may be true, or they may be mirages and not necessarily a true reflection of what's going on in the world. And for that reason, we need to benchmark, baseline, compare and contrast our versions of the truth to the versions of the truth that others have been able to accumulate and to articulate. So for that reason, I have decided over time to put together this vlog series, this YouTube channel called Jim's 5am Club, where I'm able to take book summaries that are available online to everybody. Now, it's not just me who has access to these book summaries, but everybody does. But I take them, I read them, I think about them, and I present them with the backdrop of this wonderful city of Sydney. And I also interweave into the book summary other lessons that I've been able to pick up from other books that I've read. So I'm able to complement and supplement the material of the author as well, to validate it in some way, and to provide my own context, my own perspective. Just like you can be able to add your perspective to what I say and what I go through. Anyway, let's go through this book summary. And the book that I've elected to go through today is called One Decision by the author Mike Bayer. So I'm down here at Barangaroo on this beautiful spring morning. It's going to be a cracker. Looks like it's going to be pretty warm. And I'll just head off along the foreshore here, which is a beautiful foreshore. It's only a new precinct. It's only been around for about 5 or 10 years, I think. Down here at Walsh Bay, at Barangaroo, and it has transformed the city in big ways. So what can we learn from this book today? The author kicks off with a beautiful and well thought out observation where he says that there is a thing about being authentic, and if you just be yourself, everything else in your life will simply align. I think that's quite powerful. That's quite liberating. So what we're saying here, what the author is saying, is that if you just be yourself and express your selfness, then everything will be easier in your life and it'll all align. You won't be fighting. You won't be having to second guess what to say, how to say it, which mask to put on, how to behave, how not to behave. You just do what comes naturally to you. You are authentic. You are your true self. And by being like this, then everything in your life will align and you won't have to live a lie, I guess, is one way of putting it. So the author goes on to say that some of our biggest challenges are our self-imposed barriers and assumptions. The bottom line is that we're all infected by bias. We are all prejudiced in many ways, but this book helps us A, understand it, and B, identify it, and then C, allows us to stand back and think about it, and may give us some tools to figure out how we can combat it or how we can use it in our lives to make better decisions and to be better people. The author here also says that we have these limitations, these barriers and assumptions, and they affect the way we think and the way we process the things that happen in our lives, our perception of reality. And as I mentioned before, the bottom line is that we're all different from each other, but we're different for each other. And there are no two people who are exactly the same in any way, shape or form. Even identical twins are completely unique and are completely different, because we're all going to have a different past. We're all going to experience a different now. I am here, you are somewhere else. You could be there, or you could be up there. We could be in the same place at the same time and still have very different views and very different perceptions and gain a completely different slither of reality. Because as we say in our lives, we're never going to get the total picture. We're just going to get a slither of the picture and use that to generalize in terms of what our worldview is or how we develop our worldview. So this book is all about understanding those limitations, understanding the self-imposed barriers and assumptions that we make every single day of the week and every single decision point that we make. The author goes on to say that there is opportunity. There are opportunities to discover even in pitch darkness if you know how to look for them. because, as my friend Bill Maywis said many years ago, when we were working at OTC, which became merged with Telecom to become Telstra, he made a very strong point by saying that we are what we focus on. So depending on what your obsessions are, depending on what you focus on, that's going to determine who you are and who you develop into eventually. So the author talks about the importance of being optimistic and being solutions focused. You've got two decisions to make, or there are two types of people you can become. You can become optimistic, or be pessimistic. Now you can look for solutions, you can look for what's good in the world, or you can look for the problems or what's bad in the world. You can be a matcher, or you can be a mismatcher. But if you want to live a wholesome life with strong purpose and to enjoy the path and the journey, this author here says it's probably better to be optimistic, it's probably better to be solutions focused, and it's probably better to live with positive expectancy. We are all wired, according to this author, to stay within our comfort zones of assumptions. That's the way we're wired. We're wired to think in a particular way and to stay on that course and not to waver either way for fear of pain. We are wired to avoid pain, and by that, what we're saying is we'll spend more time and more effort to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. But a lot of those pain assumptions that we have are not based on the truth. They're just based on our feelings, on our fears, on our anxieties, on our uncertainties, on our doubts that may be right and they may be wrong. Many people, many of us have inherited our fears, uncertainty and doubts from various places. Some inherit it primarily from the media, others inherit it from their parents, their families, their siblings, their mothers, their fathers, their uncles, their teachers, their schoolmates, their work peers. There is a whole myriad of places that one can become infected with irrational fear, uncertainty and doubt. So what the author here is saying is that we need to be aware of it, and not to be fooled into thinking that what your perceptions are entirely correct. They could be very wrong, they could be a little wrong, but whatever your perceptions are, whatever your thought processes are, that's going to impact how you see the world, that's going to shape your worldview. The author then goes on to say something else which is really profound and something that I love in this book. And he says that many times our predictions of outcomes and events are not based on facts but feelings. They're not based on our facts or feelings, but they may be based on other people's facts or misrepresented facts and their feelings. With social media, with Instagram, with a whole gambit of digitized society, we have these new people coming into one's life called influencers, who are strongly opinionated, and their opinions that may be heavyweight, but most of the time their opinions are featherweight, opinions that they've picked up on social media, opinions that they've picked up by watching a YouTube video by somebody who makes out to be an authority, an expert in a particular area, but all they are is just some person who has an opinion, who just likes listening to their own voice. So the call to action is to be very careful in terms of making your predictions and how you make your predictions of the future, because many of us overestimate some things and underestimate other things based on our biases, based on our worldview, based on slithers of reality that we've picked up over time. So what we're saying is, for many people, the decisions that we make are wrong decisions, are false decisions, are decisions based on the wrong building blocks. And our decisions can be very skewed and very wrong. So there's an opportunity to try and build our decision muscle, and one way of doing it is by journaling your decisions and keeping track of the decisions that you make, the decisions that you formulate, and then looking for some consistency in terms of outcome. If you're consistently making the wrong decisions, then you've got a problem. You need to sit back, you need to analyse what is going on in your decision-making process that is constantly causing you to be off track, to be off course. And through journaling, what you can do is you can write down, this is what I think is going to happen. These are the first, second and third level consequences of where I think that this decision will lead. And it doesn't have to be your own decision. You can monitor other people's decisions as well, people around you. Because people on social media always make bold predictions. I predict that Australia is going to win the Rugby League World Cup, and not only are they going to win, but they are going to win very easily. And we'll wait and see. That'll transpire and happen tomorrow. But as we said, people overestimate certain things and underestimate other things. But I don't believe, based on the evidence that I've seen, that Australia can play as bad as England did last week against Samoa, and I don't think Samoa can ever play as well as New Zealand played against Australia, which means that the outcome should lead to a very easy win for the Australians. But we'll wait and see. The author then goes on to talk about the importance about how you progress and how you actualize decisions, and informs us that every path in life, whilst it looks straight, has potholes and has dangers along the way. Now, not everything is going to happen the way we want it to happen. There are going to be issues and challenges along the way, and this is where the author calls us to action, to be option thinkers and to be flexible in our approach, but to continue to live with positive expectancy. So as we're saying, don't be rigid with your goals, but be flexible with your approach. And I love the surfer analogy. You know, there's not always going to be a perfect set of waves coming your way, but you just need to be prepared for it. And whenever those sets start coming in, to get your board out, to paddle out to where those waves are forming, and to surf when and whenever those opportunities arise. The second key point that the author talks about here is that we need a mind that is trained to adapt to different situations and to stay neutral, because by being neutral and by being adaptable, you can navigate life much more easily, is what the author is suggesting. And we need to be careful that we don't fall into the trap. We don't fall into that trap of overgeneralizing. And I guess we're all victims to generalization. And the author here is saying that overgeneralizing is making a decision or a determination based on very little evidence and applying it to a larger context. Humans are made to generalize, because if you had to sit and think about everything you did, you'd go crazy. But we need to also be aware that this gift of being able to generalize has its negative first, second and third level consequences that at least we need to be aware of. And to help us deal with this issue of overgeneralizing, the author here says that the best technique to apply is to zoom out from single events and stereotypes and to be objective. Be objective wherever you can. Sit back and ask yourself, is this the right decision? Is this the right thing that I'm thinking about? Are these the right assumptions? Because the bottom line, the reality of life is, if you want to grow and develop, if you want to progress, if you want to become a better version, a better work in progress, then every single moment of your existence, you need to be leaning just outside your comfort zone. And by leaning just outside your comfort zone means that you're going to be in situations, constantly surrounded by situations which are unfamiliar and uncomfortable. So in order to be able to deal with that, we need to embrace discomfort, because it's through this discomfort, this constant discomfort, and working and finding solutions to the discomfort, you're going to grow and to adapt. So we need to be flexible, we need to embrace suffering, we need to embrace discomfort, because that in itself is the only currency that we have in order to transact our way through life, to grow and develop, and to become the best version of ourselves. We need to keep an open mind, according to this author, but we need to be discerning. I often hear people talking about the importance of having an open mind, but I've also learned that we have people, we have organisations, we have political movements that feast on people with open minds who are not discerning. When I say be discerning, I mean be cautious, be protective of your open mind, because by having an open mind without discernment, without being on guard, without having values, goals, and principles, what happens is that your open mind eventually becomes the garbage tip for everybody else's garbage. And we see it on social media, we see it on the main media, we see it in politics, that there are people out there, highly opinionated people, who are feeding the majority, feeding the community, conspiracy theories, absolute garbage that has a big influence on how people live and how people see the world. It influences in a big way their worldview, and one thing leads to another, and before you know it, you have whole communities that are infected by these stupid conspiracy theories and see the world in a very skewed and warped way. So the last point that the author makes, and I'm just heading back to work here, I'm just below the casino, the Star Casino. It's a beautiful, beautiful building. The last point that the author makes is, before making decisions, to make sure that you fact check all your data and ask for second opinions. I found this really powerful. The fact that we can ask for second opinions. You don't have to ask for second opinions from your doctor, but you can ask second opinions from everybody. I'm not talking about becoming an opinion shopper who just asks everybody for their opinions and just pick the opinions that suit your own narrative or suit your own purpose. I'm talking about being objective and asking for second opinions, just to give you options to consider, because each decision, as we know, has first, second and third level consequences, not only to us but also to other people around us. So we need to be cautious, we need to be careful, and we need to be productive in our decision-making process to make sure that we fact check all our data and make sure that the decisions that we make are the right decisions. The author also says something here really important as well. You've got to understand that making decisions is intimidating. It's really difficult. And for a lot of people, they prefer other people making decisions for them. That's why we have bosses in businesses. That's why we have parents, grandparents, and other people. That's why some people have elders and community leaders to be in a position to make decisions, because for most people, decision making is intimidating and they don't like making decisions because it involves responsibility, duty, and it holds them to account. It's better for somebody else to make a decision and then to blame them if the outcome doesn't work out the way you want it to work out, which is not the right attitude, of course. That's why a lot of people don't really get very far in life, because they depend on the government, they depend on others to make decisions for them. But when you get other people making decisions for you, all those people are doing is making decisions that are not going to be of great benefit to your life, but it's going to be of greater benefit to their life. So once again, the bottom line from this author is to make decisions based on facts rather than make decisions based on emotion, and to don't assume, to make decisions without being caught up with assumptions, because as we say, decisions based on assumptions are decisions that could be completely wrong. The last point I want to make is that we need to be very, very direct, clear and unambiguous on the decisions that we make and what we want in life. I once worked for an organisation known as Advantra, where we had a CEO, a very, very good CEO. His name was Craig Cameron and came from Telstra. And he would always say that when we're negotiating contracts, it's important that we have a scope of works, that we know exactly what we're doing, what we're offering, what we're promising, and for that scope of work to be clear and unambiguous. When you're making decisions, when you're doing things, when you're promising things, it's important to be clear and to have clear, very, very clear assumptions and points, so that they are unambiguous, that you know exactly what you're saying, the others know exactly what you're saying, you know what you've agreed to, they know what you've agreed to, and that way it reduces the pain and issues that could prevail later on. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. I've arrived at work. I'm working down here on the Sydney Metro project at Barangaroo, and I look forward to coming to you again from a different place, from a different perspective, with a different message of empowerment. So thank you, and I look forward to chatting again. Have a great Saturday, and may we all have a productive weekend, and go the Aussies, go the mighty Kangaroos. I have no doubt, absolutely no doubt, that they are going to win, and win comfortably. Take care everybody, and bye for now.